We have a few minutes to hear from Rowan about his involvement in Partners for Possibility and any other thoughts you might want to share. And tell us a story about how it came that you got involved, Rowan, because that's an interesting story.
Great. Thanks, Louise. Thanks. Hello, everyone. My name is Rowan Gordon. I got involved in Partners for Possibility towards the end of 2014, and it was quite an interesting journey. So I'll share a bit of it. And if I could just start, Louise, by just acknowledging you and saying thanks very much for setting this up. When I describe you to people, I say Louise is a force of nature. It's an unstoppable force of nature. And when I got into this program, I really thought that, wow, to try and fix up the school system, you really needed to have a tax base behind you. I thought, it's absolutely impossible to make a meaningful impact if you didn't actually have the support of governments and kind of access to a really big budget to do this thing. And I sat down with Louise and engaged with her. I said, so Louise, how do you get on with Donald Grant? He was the MEC of Education at the time. And Louise kind of pretended it was okay, but it was obvious it wasn't, in the early stages. So I let her be. I said, okay, well, I'll think about this for 6 months. And I just got these stories coming back where this force of nature wasn't stopping at all. And she was just going flat out. So eventually I decided, okay, I'll get over myself and get on with it here. The next part of the journey, then, it was very important for me to actually pick a school that was close to us. So, often, unfortunately, the less privileged schools are further away and more remote to that. But I was very practical. I said to Louise, listen, just find something for me, please, that's in close proximity, because I'll get there much more often. So Louise very quickly found a school which is in the same suburb where our office is. And I went down to that school. And as I went into the school, I just saw these little kids running up to the principal, who was Alfonso, and they were just giving Alfonso a big hug. I mean, random kids, they're playing games, and one just rushes off and gives Alfonso a big hug. And immediately I got the impression that this was it was a special school, it was a special place. So, Alfonso and I started the journey like most of you who've been on this thing. I think the most fantastic thing about Partners for Possibility is that it is so structured, but it's so unprescriptive. I tell everyone, you have to go in there immediately, set up a plan, you have to do a whole lot of things, but no one tells you what the plan is. I mean, you can paint a jungle gym, you can set up a library, you can think about bringing electronics into the thing, you can do whatever you want. It's very structured, but it's very flexible. So that was, I think that's one of the great strengths of the program. Again, like many of the other stories, part of it was just learning there to engage with the principal and to just talk. So in my capacity being running a business, I'm very lucky to have my peers, some of the guys who started the business with me. We've got a sophisticated board. We've got all sorts of people who we can bounce ideas off. So whenever we have a meaningful decision to make, I'll invest a lot of time in what I call meandering, where we're having these chats backwards and forwards, and how do you deal with this or that. And I think that is a big part of what I tried to bring to the school, to Alfonso. So it's just sitting there and listening and meandering with him and probing the questions. So a lot of the perception out there about the state of education is potentially that, people have these conceptions that they're unions and there are problems with teachers, etc. And yet I found that there were a lot of challenges that Alfonso was facing in different places. I mean, whether it was the department or how he was engaging with people. And it's just to be able to probe and to provide a different dimension to his own thought process. That was very interesting. And as Louise said, she used that frightfully unattractive phrase, Louise, of a hardcore, hard-nosed businessman. But a big part of what we do, so even in running a business, where you've got people with extensive tertiary education, if you're not managing them well, they will perform at a lower level. It doesn't mean they're bad or they're unacceptable, just at a lower level. And Alfonso and I have been on some great journeys about, how do you lead a school as a leader, but also how do you manage the school? I mean, a lot of it is just management processes that if you can get the school to be managed in a better way, you can get to a better place. And I think that's become quite a big part of our journey as well, is discussing that and sharing it in both directions. For me to take examples and to share with Alfonso, at one level, how is it that we actually track and manage people without disempowering them and making them feel that they're not worthy kind of citizens. So that's been an interesting journey. But Louise, one of the other thoughts I'd like to share with the team here is that you know, you say it in your book at various places, but the effect of this program on the business people, I think, is often underestimated. I mean, a lot of the focus and even the discussion is about the principle, and how we're helping, and we're helping the next generation of children, etc. I think that one of the kind of under-recognized parts of these programs is the massive effect that it has on the business. So that is another reason why I wanted it to be in close proximity. So we could easily, you know, if there's an IT problem, you know, you can send someone from your IT team down there. And it also gives them a chance to expand their horizons and to get involved in some community service type work. So we managed to do that, whether it's been in HR challenges, whether it's been in IT challenges, whether it's been kind of handyman stuff where they needed more physical hands on deck to just, you know, get things done. So that was also very useful. And someone explained it to me in a very elegant way the other day. They said that, you know, when executives or middle to senior management are starting to get fancy, they might put their hands up and ask to be sent on some MBA at some fancy varsity. And typically all that happens is people would come back and feel entitled and want a higher salary. And it became so obvious that it's such a more sensible decision to send them to Partners for Possibility. They'll actually learn a whole lot more. They'll become more useful citizens, and they'll come back a whole lot more humble. So your business will be better off in many different dimensions if you actually rethink what leadership development is within your own organization. I think all in all, I mean, if I've tried to nudge Louise in this direction, but she hasn't embraced it fully yet. I mean, I think that it would be an amazing development if this became a multi-year program. I think it's really hard to affect meaningful change in a single time period. And because of that, you know, even though we left the formality of the program, Alfonso and I have kept in touch every single week. We have a standing meeting at 12 o'clock on a Tuesday, and we alternate. He comes up to the office one week and I go down to the school one week, and it gives him a chance to see a different environment as well. But we've had a very warm relationship that has developed into a true friendship over this last couple of years. So Louise, I'm hugely grateful to you and to the team and to the chance to be part of this thing. I do want to close off with one thing, Louise. And that is that, so Alfonso and I did take a bit of a break now. So over this whole COVID lockdown period, we haven't been visiting each other. And I went back there yesterday for the first time, which is unprompted. I mean, not related to this call, but I was deeply, deeply concerned about the ability of schools to deal with this. It hadn't really dawned on me the magnitude of the challenge where kids have lost half a year. And what do we do now? I mean, are people going to sit back? You can't hold back a whole year and yet to progress people where they're not fully capable to go to the next year. I mean, we are facing the biggest crisis I've ever seen right now. I mean, it may have been very needy to have Partners for Possibility a long time ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, but there is no need greater than the need we're facing right now as to how these guys are going to navigate this process of having lost nearly half a year's worth of education. So Louise, I wish you luck in that, and if we can help in any way, give us a shout.